From the Denver Broncos Media Center, welcome to Broncos Country Tonight.
Welcome to Broncos Country Tonight as we preview the Broncos versus Cardinals. And Benjamin, this game has taken on a little bit of a different turn now with Kyler Murray out for the season. And listen, I've always liked Colt McCoy. I like Colt McCoy. I think he's one of the higher end backups. This isn't a guy that you can come in and say, oh, well, this is a gimme win or anything like that, especially because the Broncos have had their own inconsistencies. But I will say when it comes to this game, certainly the mobility, some of the dynamic playmaking that Kyler Murray offered, not to mention the fact that he tends to be played better on the road for whatever reason, I think some of those things are a big hit to the Arizona Cardinals.
I think so. When all the number stuff started changing on the jerseys, I was disappointed that McCoy didn't go to 45 just for the Colt 45 references, but it's tough. It's tough for the Denver Broncos. You think you got a little bit of momentum, the points you put up with the Chiefs, and now you're going to get the better quarterback from the Cardinals. And,
Come on.
I know you're a big Kyler fan. So, no, I like Colt McCoy. I think he's a good quarterback. I think he's good in that system, and I think with a weak prep, he's going to be dangerous. I mean, it's not like you're getting a regular backup. You're getting a starter caliber backup here. So that's something to keep your eye on. Vance Joseph returning, plenty of storylines, kind of for that, I think, as well. I don't think this Cardinals team's particularly good. Certainly not their best effort. The defense, the front seven is certainly something, but the secondary's had some problems. And I think this might be a big Greg Dulcich game.
Yeah, I can say, well, again, Vance Joseph versus tight ends. Yeah, that seems like would line up, right? So, yeah, they're 4-9. They certainly still have a lot of talent, right? James Conner's playing pretty well for what it's worth. He always seems to be on the edge of being banged up, but then he kind of keeps going. He got a touchdown the other night. And then you also look at DeAndre Hopkins, Marquise Brown. I don't know about Rondale Moore if he's going to be in the mix or not, but they got Trey McBride, CSU tight end, former CSU tight end. So they got a lot of receivers. They got a lot of talent. And the one thing about Colt McCoy is he's pretty accurate, right? I mean, he doesn't have the elite athleticism that you're looking for in a starter, but he's going to get the ball to these guys. And even when Kyler Murray went out against that game against the Patriots, he kept him in it. I mean, for a little bit before everything sort of the dam broke. They had the DeAndre Hopkins fumble that was returned for a touchdown, and that kind of seemed to sort of tip things. But up to that point, the Cardinals were in that game, and Colt was making some plays.
They were, and then once they got down too far where they couldn't run anymore, it kind of tilted the scales. If they can continue to run the football, if it's close enough, then they'll be dangerous. They like to play the short game with Colt McCoy, put the ball in receivers' hands and let them make plays. They'll go to Hopkins on third down and on the outside when they need a big play. I thought Robbie Anderson started showing up in that Patriots game a little bit. So something to kind of keep your eye on there. Trey McBride looked like he started showing up a little bit in that game, so something to keep your eye on. They've got plenty of weapons. They got plenty of speed. The question is, can they put it all together? And this could be Cliff Kingsbury's last year in Arizona, so he's fighting for his job.
Yeah, staying with the offense for just a couple of moments here. They're not a great third down team. They're a little bit better than average on red zone, but I think a lot of that is Kyler Murray. I think that's going to take a little bit of step back. Although I will say, again, James Conner, who had double-digit touchdowns last year, is just one of those guys. If he gets within the 5, James Conner is going to be getting the ball, and they're probably going to end up scoring. Interestingly, though, as we talk about their offense, not elite numbers. And you'd think for a team that has so much invested on that side of the ball, you'd think that they'd be putting up more significant stats.
Yeah, you would. But the problem for Cliff Kingsbury has been he's just static. He's going to run what he's going to run. It's not going to change. And as more and more people get tape on that, they find better and better ways to figure out how to stop that or funnel it in a direction that they want. And that's kind of been the thing. It's just they've started to figure out Cliff Kingsbury, they started to figure out a way to contain Kyler Murray and try to force him to make throws he can't make or isn't good at making. And, the book on them is kind of out. It's going to be interesting to see if after this season they make a change at the coaching staff. And if they do, what that means for Kyler Murray, because he requires a very, very specific offense to be successful in the NFL. And that's sort of what they've built around. I wonder what it is that they will bring in to kind of cater to that.
I'm with you on that. Going to the defensive side, of course, the Broncos offense finally started to see some success. They got 28 points against the Chiefs, and they're taking on the 32nd rank scoring defense in the league when it comes to the Arizona Cardinals, giving up almost 27 points per game. So they're upside down in a bad way. It's not like the Broncos are in a good way either. They're almost 15 points per game, and then they're only giving up 18.3. But again, 27 points per game explains a little bit of why they are a 4-9 team. They're also 31st in the red zone, 27th on third down. So my belief on this, and you mentioned the secondary, they've only come away with 8 picks this season. My belief on this is the Broncos might have some opportunities to move the ball.
Hashtag let it rip, right?
Yeah.
I think you want to. I think you want to try to. I think you want to try some things out in this game a little bit. You don't want to do it right away, but I think you want to try to get a lead. And then I think you want to try some things out. Hey, is this working? Is this working? We've got an opportunity to try a few things. I think this needs to be this game for this offense, for these coaches. I think they need to. I don't want to say they need to sit there and just take deep shots, unnecessarily, like Pat Shurmur at the end of the Jets game when Rippon was playing that one, but. I do think that there will be opportunities here to try a few new things, and maybe you can kind of figure out some things as a team.
I'm with it. And the Broncos suddenly now are 30th in red zone percentage, so they're climbing out of slowly but surely they're climbing out of the depths of the NFL. But it's going to take a little bit of time, and I'm with you on this one. I think that there's some opportunities because you are officially eliminated. Be aggressive. You and I have been sort of pounding the table on Broncos Country tonight, the radio show, as well as here, multiple times, saying. This is a moment where, hey, it's 4th and 1, Sarah. Maybe you're slightly in negative territory, but this is one of those situations where it's like, what else are you doing? I mean, you go for it. And if nothing else, I know that some people will say, wow, then you put your defense in a bad spot. It's like, well, or you go 3 and out and you punt it again, and your defense keeps being on the field. Isn't that also putting your defense in a bad situation?
Well, it is. And these air quotes late game collapses, and I'm heavily rolling my eyes at this. That people are talking about are really just a defense being gassed. When you're at your 65th, 70th, 75th, 80th rep in a game, yeah, you're going to be tired. You're going to wind up giving up plays at that point, and teams know that. And so, I think you get the popular narrative is this defense is good, it's collapsing late game, and I'm like, man, the defense got you there. It's just tired at that point because the offense isn't holding up their end. Maybe watch some football for once.
One more thing I want to point out about the Cardinals, and this is remarkable. I did not know this, but you watch enough Cardinals games, and this makes sense. We already know the Broncos are the worst team in the NFL with penalties, right? They have 97 penalties on the season. They're 32nd. The Cardinals are 31st. Mm-hmm. We're taking the top 2 teams in penalties. They've got 90 penalties on the season. And I would venture to say the Broncos have been on a better trend. We're going to do that sort of deep dive in the offseason. But I would venture to say the Broncos have been on a better trend than they were at the very beginning of the year. But the fact remains, this is a perfect example. You got a 3-10 team versus a 4-9 team. A perfect example of where you're looking at 2 teams that they continue to put themselves in bad situations, and the results are you just don't win very many games.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. Is Sean Hockley refereeing this one so we can get the most flags thrown and the 2 most penalized teams? So we can
set a record, like an NFL record.
Perfect storm of penalization. No, I mean, it's nice to see the Broncos improving on that from where they were earlier in the year. Still got a ways to go. The Cardinals kind of got the same thing going on. A lot of penalties. I hope they get penalized a lot in this game, but you never want to see a penalty fest. No, nobody's tuning.
Well, no, but it's sloppy, right? And that's what happens, and it oftentimes goes back to coaching. Now, we talked to our guy Steve Atwater, and he'd say, well, quite a few of those tend to be on the players. He looks at the players more often in those situations, but it's like an organizational look. And again, they're coming off of Vic Fangio, and they were one of the best teams in the NFL when it came to penalties. So there was a very obvious change that happened in the middle of that. The Broncos, of course, that's going to be one of the number one things they try to fix in the offseason. Is you just whatever the coaching staff, whatever you guys decide as far as changes go, you're going to have to focus keenly in on. We cannot be that kind of sloppy team.
Well, right, and that's one of the things. I mean, you can't change who you are, the people that you have. I mean, I guess you can bring in new free agents or whatever, but your core group is your core group, right? But what you can change is how often you get penalized for doing the wrong thing by just not doing the wrong thing.
Indeed. So, what's your overall thoughts on this game?
I think the Broncos can win. I think it's a winnable football game. I think the next 2 games are winnable, actually. I think that if you're Denver, you kind of need that. Put together a 2-game off the heels of that Kansas City performance, and I think it gives you some confidence going into next year. It's going to be interesting to see how much Russ plays down the stretch. Don't think he's going to be playing in this one. I think it's going to be Brett Rippon, but we'll see.
Okay, all right. For Benjamin Albright, I'm Ryan Edwards. Thanks for watching Broncos Country tonight.
You can stand up and salute in Denver, and you got the world champions that live in your town.